Well, once again, thank you so very much for tuning into the Sanjubaba show. And as promised to you that we will be coming up with some very interesting personalities on a weekly basis to you. And as I've asked you earlier, if you do have somebody in your mind who you think would be interesting over here to come and talk to us and share some of their achievements in life, I would love to talk to them. Please call me at Channel 12 and set up an appointment to talk to me. Other than that, thank you so much once again for tuning in. And today I've got a very interesting person that I've known for quite some time. And she has been very, very close to me for almost about 12 to 15 years right now. And it is my privilege really to have her in the studios today. She is the member of the Franciscan Sisters of the Eucharist. She is the founder, director, and teacher of Cre-Act School, which happened to be in Pocatello for the last 39 years, and the recent publisher of a book that she wrote at an early age of 87, The Roadmap to Education, the Cre-Act Way. She is none other than Sister Dorothy Prokes. Sister, thank you so very much for coming in today.
Good to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you today in our studios. Really, it's a pleasure for me. And
well, you've always been favorable and supportive ever since we met at Cre-Act.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's your blessings. There's so much to talk about with you. And as I was getting ready last night to sit down for this interview with you, I was thinking, where should I start and where should I finish? And what should I really ask her? There's so much to talk with you. So the very first question that comes to my mind, Sister Dorothy, is a girl from Minnesota, Jackson, Minnesota. When did she decide to become Sister Dorothy from Dorothy?
At the age of 15, I heard the call, the urge to devote my life to others through becoming a religious sister. And I was young. In those days, it wasn't unusual. I finished my high school there at the convent. But today, much more is required in education. Usually, a sister has a degree or is close to a degree. In order for her to have a direction in life.
So how did that happen? How did the transformation begin? What did you think? What could be the changes of your life?
All right. I had the example of religious sisters as teachers. And we had to wait after school for a car to take us home. And often we helped the teacher and with hanging things up in the room and changing them or preparing the lesson for the next day. And we became very friendly. And I was impressed with their lives and what they were doing. And I had good parents and a good home. And we did things as a family and respected one another very highly for the things that we could do with one another. It was Depression time, and there were some difficult days, plowing through snow to get to school and whatnot. But a call like that comes from the inside.
Sure.
Not from the outside.
Absolutely.
And so I felt at age 15, a sophomore in high school, I was ready to try it. And as in training, we finished high school and part of college so that we had a strong foundation on which to launch out. And at that time, we could either become a teacher, a nurse, or a house sister that took care of the home. Those were the limitations. Now, hopefully, sisters have a degree and a sense of stability and direction to follow. So we have sisters in many, many
So was it
areas.
very hard to start off? Did you have to move out of your home?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I had to move. My home was in Minnesota. The convent was in La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Oh, that was quite a move.
Quite a move.
Uh-huh.
And but I had visited the convent before that. So I knew. Thank you.
Please.
So I knew where I was going, what I was doing. But I went through years of training before I took vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience,
Sure.
and was ready to move out in the service of the Lord. And I taught in grade schools, then gradually in junior high and high schools. And it was in high school in Breda, Iowa, a little town, little high school in Iowa, where I directed the high school students in drama and speech. And we gave the production, Paint Your Wagon. After that, those students clung to one another. They cried that it was over. And
it was directed by you?
Yes, it was. And they communicated with one another, stayed with one another for years to come, too. And I saw what could happen. And that's where the title of my book and workbook comes from, Paint Your Wagon. What it means is, show me who you are, what you do, what you would like to do, and then come along. Got a dream, boy? Got a song? Paint your wagon and come along.
Very nice.
Then it's not do this, do that.
So you work with the children instead of telling the children what to do.
Yes.
You find out what they have in them, and we try to work with it.
Correctly. And we do that in many ways. There's methodology for that where you begin because the body is involved. They learn not only with their minds or with hearing or looking at a movie. They do things. They become things or whatever.
You study the body language of a...
Well, the body language.
Very nice.
One day, we had a visitor come to school from the State Department of Education. He told one of the fourth graders, "You're a Catholic school, where's your uniform?" And he said, "My character is my uniform."
Excellent. Excellent.
That's the idea that was proposed or worked with the children.
Very nice. Well, all the way from Minnesota to Wisconsin, from Wisconsin to Iowa, from Iowa to New York City. That is quite a jump from one state to another, and you have got your doctorate in New York City. And tell us something about that.
All right. This was a way of our Franciscan sisters of the Eucharist working with us trying to help us develop our potential. And after my experience with children, instead of 25 desks in a row, do this, do this, do this, and when you're finished with this, this comes next. Before you got to the end of the row, this one was finished. And they were individuals. But this way, they were ready to work with others. And so I was appointed then, because one of the sisters passed away who had that position, to work with theater in my division of the community.
And where was that at?
That was in Iowa.
Okay.
And I was told, choose a place where you want to go that you think will help fulfill what you are looking for. So I wrote to several places, and I had experience in Michigan where I had gotten my master's. But a new department opened in New York, at New York University, educational theater. Not just theater for the stage, but educational theater under Dr. Nancy and Lowell Swartzell. And so I was one of the first students that took that kind of a stance, or worked in that direction. And when I got my doctorate there, then I was asked to go to the universities along the west coast of the United States, because I was in British Columbia at that time, instead of flying directly back to the east to our mother house, to see what was happening at those universities if they would hire me, because I didn't have a...
In the west side of the country.
Yeah, on the west side of the country.
Okay.
And it was at the time when science and math were the fortes in colleges. And they said, we haven't got time for that. But we had sisters in Blackfoot, Idaho. And so...
And you must have said, what is Blackfoot?
And we had sisters there at a grade school.
All right.
And I started there working with the children in that school. And
So
then
you did come to Blackfoot, Idaho.
I did come
Which year was that?
That was in about 1980. And I went to Pocatello, hoping to get into the university there. Dear Dr. Blomquist said, we need what you've got, but we can't afford.
Over here at ISU?
At ISU.
Okay.
And so I started working at after-school hours in 3 grade schools with after-school programs, and for a half hour, 3 times a week. Then gradually, I got into the schools during the daytime and was hired there. And but it wasn't anything continuous. And so in 1975, one of my advisors approached me and said, I think it's time for you to start your own school. And I rented one classroom in the lower level of the First Congregational Church across from the high school.
Sure, on Arthur Street.
On Arthur Street.
Yes. My friend's wife is the pastor over there right now.
Is that right?
Yes.
All right. And I started with 7 students in grades 3, 4, and 5, and a half-day secretary. And I added Thank you. I added a class each year till we topped it with 8th and bottomed it with preschool. And by that time, we needed 4 classrooms in the lower level of the church, which they did not have. But at that time, the public school that became Cre-Act was vacated and closed.
Oh, okay.
And so that's at the end of, I forget the name of the street. But anyway, that's where Cre-Act started on its own, And we went from preschool through grade 8. But the 8th graders, when they had to go to the public junior high, which was 8, 9, and 10.
That was on Grant Street? On Grant?
The Cre-Act?
Yes.
The
big building that we had recently?
Not Grant, is that? Yes, it was. Yes. 506 South Grant.
Yes.
And then, let me get my training.
8th grade.
All right, 8th grade. When they went to public junior high with 8th, the 9th, and the 10th, they were nobodies. They had, all the rest had made their acquaintances. And so that was too difficult. So we stopped at 7th grade.
I see.
6th grade, pardon me, 6th grade.
6th grade, yeah.
Because 7th, 8th, and 9th is public junior high.
I see, yeah.
And it was before that time, I guess did I mention when going to New York? All right. Then I was in New York University, still related to me, and invited me to be their representative at the World's Children's Theater Conference in Venice.
Oh, very nice.
And a couple of years following, the same thing happened in England. And so I got a wider scope at that time.
Sure.
So that is the story of how I got to know the world.
So I think a lot of people, they still think about Cre-Act. What does Cre-Act really mean?
Cre-Act is a shortened form for creative acting. It encourages the child, the student, at any level, any age, to work creatively with what is within them and is part of the world around them and what they respond to that way. So they learn not only with their mind, but with their whole being and in creative ways to relate to others.
Both my girls have got the best foundation out of your school, Sister Dorothy. That's for sure.
Well, I'm proud of you and them.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you and them.
Thank you very much.
And especially with Ronnie at her age, with the achievements she has made now.
It's your blessings. Thank you.
And so it never ends.
Yes.
When we had visitors for a meeting at our convent, our Franciscan Sisters of the Eucharist, there were people from Washington, Oregon, and northern Minnesota. And a man who works in a cement factory there asked for a book. So he would know how to relate to his cohorts.
So your school journey carried on. You came to Pocatello, Idaho. Cre-Act came up, you carried Cre-Act in your shoulders for almost about 37, 38 years. And then one day you thought, you know what, I need to go on a sabbatical. And I just couldn't believe the reason for the sabbatical. I said, for what are you going for a sabbatical for? Then you said, well, I would like to write a book, and that's what the parish wants me to do.
Right.
And I couldn't believe, at the young age of 87, I believe, or around 88, you thought of starting to write a book. And folks, this is the book that she completed at the age of 88, and the name is The Roadmap to Education, the Cre-Act Way. And this is the wagon that she's talking about. So
Paint your wagon.
Paint your wagon. So if you would like a book, anytime you can touch base with me. I have some copies with me. At the same time, you can also touch base with Sister Dorothy whenever you'd like to get one. So how did that happen? So you went back to Minnesota?
No. Minnesota is where I was born. Our mother house moved
To
from La Crosse, Wisconsin to Meriden, Connecticut.
I see, okay.
So now we have over 100 sisters that are members of the community, and our centering is in Meriden, Connecticut.
So you moved from Pocatello to Connecticut
Yes.
and closed the
no.
doors over there?
No.
Okay.
I stayed in Pocatello.
Oh,
I didn't. We have sisters in various areas. We have some in Washington and Texas and Michigan and Minnesota. But I began with Family Life Center. And my community here works with all different aspects of furthering and encouraging family life. And so these are my people. I cannot leave them.
sure. So how long did it take to write this book, Sister Dorothy?
It took me 2 years, but it took another year for the company itself to get the rights from the Paint Your Wagon musical.
Ah, I see.
And we were held up until we could get that. And so that's where the holdup came there. And but to me, that experience in Breda, Iowa, where those students saw so much in this, gave me the theme. That's what all of us do. That's
Sure.
what you do. It's what you do with your restaurant. You paint your wagon. This is who I am, who we are
Sure.
when you come here. And come along. It's not telling you what to do. It's not telling you what you have to do. What can you do? And I think this little poster that I have here, that I just found recently, says it so well. Experience is not what happens to you. It's what you do with what happens to you. And so that's
an excellent quotation. Very nice quotation.
That's why life changes. And that's how one progresses from one level to another. But I have had and still have the support of my entire religious community. And I've been in Michigan and worked there with students too, in Texas and around, but it has to be something that fits in or the program wants.
Sure, sure. So you have, while you were gone for 2 years, I know that you called us a couple, 3 times to find out what we felt about Cre-Act.
Yes.
And you have been trying to network with the various other people around the country, I believe.
Yes.
And especially in Idaho. So you must have got a lot of feedbacks from various people, and that must be a long process for dialing those phone numbers and finding those phone numbers and finding those emails. And you know, sometimes I feel just overwhelmed with all the situation.
Well,
How did you do
when
that?
you're devoted to a cause, you don't count the cost. You give yourself to it because you see new life springing up.
Very nice.
And
The inspiration
right.
comes from within.
that's right. And even now, I get graduation announcements from my former students from colleges and communications, recognizing or realizing the bond that was between us.
Sure, sure. Very quickly, how tough does it feel sometimes when you sit down by yourself and you're thinking about your past life and you're thinking all the days that you have come through, and now that you know that Cre-Act is no longer there in Pocatello, and you're hoping and wishing somebody would come back with Cre-Act and start Cre-Acting, how does it really feel?
It is difficult, but I feel the seed is sown and the harvest is up to the Lord.
Excellent.
And people are still buying books. When I went to a doctor's office the other day, he said, "I've got your book on my shelf. And when my grandchildren come, they pull it down and look at it." And I know the word is there because it isn't only the travels, but it's here in the United States too, where I've given workshops from coast to coast. And at one time, I was working with the State Department of Education in its Cre-Act division. And so the seed has been planted in a lot of places.
And we will see it grow one day. I promise you we will. We will. You had a lot of visions in your life, starting from the age of 15, all the way now that you are just barely touching 94, and you look such wonderful, really. I wish I have a part of you at this age that I am sitting on. What is your next vision in life? What are you thinking? What would you like to get up in the morning and wish for something to change or happen?
Well, I have time now to pray a lot. And more things are wrought by prayer than this world dreams of.
Sure.
And the cause and the support of others. Some families from Cre-Act still come to visit me and to share their experiences. And it will go on. And I know, I trust, and I've done everything I can do. Now I lay down the burden to the rest. How are you going to find this creative dream?
Wonderful, wonderful. Once again, experience is not what happens to you. It is what you do with what happens to you. Folks, I hope you have enjoyed this program with Sister Dorothy. It was a privilege talking to her and really come to know a little bit more about her and giving us this time at this precious, valuable time of hers that she could take out for us. If you have any questions for Sister Dorothy, you can call Channel 12 again for us, and you can send me questions of yours, and I will see what I can do to get the answers for you. Once again, to get touch base with me, you can call Channel 12 at any given time, and please leave me your phone number and I'll get back to you. Thank you so very much for tuning into Sanjubaba Show once again, and hopefully you have a fantastic week. We'll catch you back sometime next week at the same time. Thank you much.